Greetings, Comets. I am Richard Benson, president of UT Dallas, and I'm pleased to join you in celebrating a truly important part of our nation's collective history during Hispanic Heritage Month. This month has provided us with an opportunity to tell a story of hardworking people, lifting up not only the fortunes of their families and communities, but ultimately the entire country's fortunes. It is not an understatement to say that a greater understanding and appreciation of Hispanic culture helps us to be a better version of who we say we are. At UT Dallas, we are making sure that we are always progressing, moving forward into a bright future that welcomes and includes everyone. Let's carry on with that good work as we grow in our commitment and understanding and appreciation of each other. Whoosh.
Buen bonitos, and welcome to this year's Hispanic Heritage Celebration, brought to you by the Multicultural Center and the Hispanic Heritage Planning Committee. I am one of your hosts, Evan Acuna. I am a sophomore majoring in animation, and I am from Austin, Texas.
Bienvenidos. I'm also one of your hosts this afternoon. My name is Gigi Canet. I'm a multicultural peer advocate for Latinx programming in the MC. I'm also a junior majoring in healthcare management, and I'm from Dallas, Texas. We're excited to be able to spend this time with you and have you all join us today to celebrate the finale to our month-long celebration, Más Fuertes Unidos.
We have a great show lined up for you all. We have a couple of student performances, a video from the planning committee, and a special guest speaker to share some encouraging words with us.
But first, we like to start this program by acknowledging the history and legacy of colonization. UT Dallas stands on land originally settled and occupied by the Caddo, Wichita, and Comanche people. We recognize the history of UT Dallas begins with the forced removal of the indigenous people through the legacy of colonization. Thank you.
Gigi, who would have thought we'd still be living in quarantine this far in the year? We left campus in March and it's still the middle of October. I still cannot believe I cannot find toilet paper.
I still can't believe it, but I guess welcome to the new normal. And because we're still in the middle of this pandemic, everything has gone virtual this year. Our classes are online. Who knows how the spring semester will look? And Hispanic Heritage Month has all been completely virtual this year.
That has probably been the most challenging, but also fun at the same time. I know you've been in the midst of putting these programs together. What has been your favorite program so far in Hispanic Heritage Month?
I have to say my favorite event so far has to be Bailamos, where we had a professional dance instructor teach us how to dance to the rhythms of merengue and bachata, and I love dancing bachata. It brings back fond memories of the quinceañeras I'd attend back when I was 15. But for the audience, let us know what your favorite program has been so far by writing in the chat. You can explain which ones you've been to or which ones you had the most fun at or which ones were the most memorable. We're excited to hear from you. And while you're all thinking of your favorite programs, please enjoy this video created by our Hispanic Heritage Committee on what being Latinx means to them. Hello and welcome to this year's Hispanic Heritage Month kickoff. My name is Gigi and I'm an MPA for the Multicultural Center, and I'm also Vice President of LULAC here on campus. To start us off with, I'm going to be talking about what my Latina identity means to me. And what it means to me is embracing my culture in its entirety. And that means it's food, it's music, it's dances, it's history, and forever learning more about it and indulging myself.
Being Latina means having a deep understanding of the importance of family.
To me, being Latino means coming from a culture filled with hardworking individuals.
Being Latinx to me means having a community that empowers each other.
My Latinx identity is important to me because of the family-oriented culture that I have that shaped me into the person that I am today. And it's also what motivates me to help others in the community.
What Latinx means to me is cultural variation. And just to see how, although there are some cultural similarities, there's just so many other cultural differences that makes each culture unique.
Being Latina or Latinx for me means being part of a rich culture with a unique familia. It means perseverance and determination and serving our communities.
My Latino identity reminds me of the importance of togetherness and freedom, but also continue to keep alive the historical significance that my Mexico reflects in all its splendor.
My Latinx identity comes from my love of my culture's food, music, dancing, and history. When I'm surrounded by people who share my identity and love the culture I love, it truly warms my heart and makes me want to show the world what it means to be Latinx.
What my Latinx identity means to me is being resilient. As a first-generation Latinx student, I am the first one in my family to pursue college education. Therefore, I had to encounter a lot of obstacles that I personally had to find ways to get around.
So when asked about what Latinx means to us it means protecting your family and friends, to serve the community, to have strength for those with little, and to have resilience in the face of adversity.
This year for HHM 2020, we're bringing light to inclusivity here on campus. So we're asking our students, what can we do to make our campus more inclusive?
To make UTD more inclusive, I believe we need to amplify and listen to the voices of students from different backgrounds, schools, and organizations.
I think UTD can be more inclusive by targeting more Latinx majority schools.
I think that UTD can help us by spreading more awareness of organizations that are out there so people can find people that are similar to themselves.
Be willing to be vulnerable and open up to powerful conversations that will hopefully lead to something greater.
I believe we can work to make campus more inclusive by sharing our stories and standing up for those who aren't.
I feel like there are a lot of ways that we can go about this. One way is by showcasing events that focus on the different cultures that we have, as our campus is a super diverse campus. So I know we have people from a lot of different backgrounds, different ethnicities, people who identify differently.
Talk to your student representatives. Push for more funding for the Multicultural Center. Push for more funding for scholarships based on diversity. We're all supposed to be in this together.
Wow, great job. For me, being Latinx means being part of a small but rich family of many different diverse people, and I am truly proud to be a part of it.
Awesome. I believe Jan Rose in our section said, I love game night, so much fun, and I learned a lot about Loteria. Yes, I loved Loteria. And I love rewatching our kickoff video. Our students' words are so impactful and they're right. We've got some diversity, but let's continue working on our inclusion here on campus. Before we continue, we want to take some time because we believe it's important that we inform our audience on what Hispanic Heritage Month is and why we celebrate it.
The observance of Hispanic Heritage Month began in 1988 under President Ronald Reagan. However, its roots date back to 1968 when President Lyndon B. Johnson announced the first Hispanic Heritage Week. Each year, Hispanic Heritage Month is celebrated from September 15th through October 18th. September 15th is the ceremonial day in Latin America because it marks the independence of the 5 Latin American countries: Guatemala, Honduras, El Salvador, Costa Rica, and Nicaragua.
Our theme this year is Más Fuertes Unidos, Stronger Together. This year, we aim to highlight the strength that comes when people of all backgrounds come together and support each other. The Latinx community is made up of bright, beautiful, and diverse cultures that we want to embrace and appreciate through this Hispanic Heritage Month. While our campus is extensive and diverse, there's always room to expand on cultural awareness and competence. We hope to be the beginning of a long line of educating our communities on various cultures. The social and political climate that we're under only motivates us more to ensure that we stand in solidarity with those who need it the most.
Brava. I'm excited about what's coming up next because we have our first couple of performances from our very own UT Dallas students. Our first performance is from Giselle Maya, a member of Omega Delta Pi Fraternity Inc., performing La Luna by Josine Log.
Así tal vez podía
La luna presentía que nuestra pequeñez un día la mataría con tanta insensatez. Cualquiera pensaría que al menos una vez la luna enseñaría su lado de artes. La luna no quería dejar de aparecer. Muy vuelta a iluminar hasta el amanecer. La luna sonreía, contenta al descubrir que por siempre gozaría con nuestro porvenir.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, so that's not doesn't take much for me to smile these days. I love it. Thank you so much, Desia. Who's up next?
I agree, that was awesome. Next up performing is Germán Villatoro, a junior in information technology and systems major and a member of Omega Delta Phi Fraternity Incorporated. And he'll be performing Yo Quisiera by Reik.
Soy tu mejor amigo, tu pañuelo de lágrimas, de amores perdidos. Me recargaste mi hombro, tu llanto no cesa, de amor te acaricio y me dices por qué la vida es tan cruel con sentimientos. Y solo te abrazo y te consuelo. Me pides mis consejos para protegerte y de tu próximo encuentro sabes que te cuido. Lo que no sabes es si yo quisiera ser ese porque te esperas y te desesperas. Yo quisiera que tu llanto ese que viene de tus sentimientos. Yo quisiera ser ese porque no es verdad, ilusionada. Yo quisiera que vivieras de mí siempre enamorada. Tú que le quedas viendo y me preguntas si eso está pasando y yo no sé qué hacer. Si tú supieras que me estoy muriendo, quisiera decirte lo que yo siento, no, pero tengo miedo de que me rechaces, de que solo en mi mente miras para siempre. Por eso yo quisiera ser ese porque tú les ves si te desesperas. Yo quisiera que tu llanto, ese que viene de tus sentimientos, yo quisiera ser ese porque no es verdad, ilusionada. Yo quisiera que vivieras de mí siempre enamorada. Yo quisiera ser tu llanto, tu vida. Yo solo quisiera ser tu llanto, tu vida. Oh, ser tu vida. Tu llanto, tu vida. Oh, no.
Wow, that was amazing. That song really takes me back in time. He had me singing along with him the whole time. Great job, performers, and thank you for sharing your talents with us. Evan, what did you think of that last performance?
He was on point. He was feeling it, and I absolutely loved it. I feel like dancing. How'd you like it, Gigi?
Honestly, warm inside. I really love nostalgic songs like that, especially Reik. It really takes me back to when I was younger, listening to the radio as I was, I don't know, running errands with my grandpa or something.
Yes.
We have some really talented students at UT Dallas. Can we give them a round of applause, please, or a virtual round of applause? Now let's get ready to introduce our guest speaker. I'm so excited to hear what he has to say. He actually held a small focus group with some of our students, and I got to participate with him. And let me tell you, I know he's going to be inspirational and motivational to us all.
Dr. Zelaya is a graduate of the Department of Education at Dallas A&M University and the CEO of Dr. Zelaya Education Counseling, LSLC. At Texas A&M, he pursued a bachelor's in interdisciplinary studies, a master's in education and in curriculum instruction, and a doctorate in urban education.
Dr. Zelaya is a first-generation college student who in the year 2006 became the first one in his family to graduate from high school. Dr. Zelaya has traveled across the nation speaking to students and educators, and his message has also been broadcasted to people all over the world.
From his days as a homeless child in one of the most dangerous cities in his home country of Honduras, to his migration to the United States as an unaccompanied minor, he speaks of higher education as a beacon of hope for families and communities across the nation. He empowers students by helping them develop an enthusiastic approach to higher education and reinforces this concept through his various systems of support.
Now please help us welcome Dr. Jose Luis Zelaya.
Utilize the pain and the experiences that I have lived in life to be able to talk about how higher education completely transformed my life. Education gives her a different life. I am here. I want to stay connected. I am super pumped to share with you my heart and the generational power of higher education. Buenas tardes. Hello, UTD. It is such an incredible opportunity to be here with you today. I want to say congratulations for the beautiful programming that you have done throughout this past week, celebrating the strength of our communities, celebrating the empowerment of our communities, but as well as celebrating the power of education. My name is Dr. Jose Luis Zelaya. I just recently finished a PhD from Texas A&M University, and I am nothing but incredibly humbled by the opportunity that the Multicultural Center at UTD is giving me to be able to share my experiences, to be able to share a little bit about who I am and why it is that I feel that education is transformational for our communities. I'm a dreamer. I'm a soñador. I migrated from Honduras at the age of 13 years old, and I have experienced how the power of higher education has transformed my life, but not only my life. You see, I don't consider myself to be an example of our communities, but instead I consider myself a sample of our communities, because as Gigi just said, as I was having a conversation with students from UTD, what I learned is that you have aspirations. What I learned is that you find hope in this concept of higher education. So for me, it is a humble opportunity to be in your presence, to be able to be where you're at right now, whether you're having lunch or you're taking a break or you're in between virtual classes. To me, it's a beautiful opportunity to be able to be sharing this platform with you. Thank you so much. And whenever I thought about how do I address such a powerful community, such as the Latino community, as the Latina who's right there, that poderosa, who believes in the power of education, to me, the most important thing, as I share, is to understand that what you're doing today, by putting faith and hope in the concept of higher education, is that one day, that would turn into generational power. You see, as I talk about my story, as I talk about who I am and the things that I have seen, I want you to understand why it is that I'm so passionate about higher education. Because I can tell you I'm a doctor. I can tell you my dreams, and I can tell you that I want to be able to clean trash fields and turn them into school, but none of that would really make sense unless you understand my roots, unless you understand where I come from. So I welcome you to the invisible. I welcome you to what you cannot see, because you see this, and you see a tie, and you see a shirt, and you see a suit. But what you don't see is the scars and the pain and the wars that I had to be able to go through to be able to be here. But it is a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful honor to be able to carry a flag that says that I am a first-generation college student, to be able to understand that this journey was not an easy journey, but somehow through strength, through resilience, through grit, through ganas, through ponerse pilas, it is possible. So I know that that's the spirit in our communities. You see, I'm from Honduras. In fact, I'm from San Pedro Sula, Honduras. And San Pedro Sula, Honduras is beautiful. Oh my God, like our culture, our food, our people, our traditions, our dance, our soccer. The country, it's incredible. But whenever you live under absolute levels of poverty, you see, whenever we talk about poverty in the United States, we're talking about a very different concept, because you can live in the United States, make $20,000, $30,000 a year and still be considered poor. But whenever you come from countries of Latin America, countries that maybe many of your own parents migrated from, maybe countries like Guatemala, Honduras, El Salvador, Mexico, that live under absolute levels of poverty, which are considered under the United Nations description as somebody who makes less than $2 a day. So think about that. Think about a country where you wake up whenever the sun goes up and whenever the moon goes down, and all you make in that between of the day is less than $2 a day, but yet a gallon of milk is almost $4. Yet a gallon of gas is more than $4. So whenever you live under those levels of poverty, reality is very difficult. And for me, I understood the pain of poverty since a very young age. I was only 5 years old whenever in the trash field that you used to live in, because I lived in a trash field, miles and miles of trash. And I remember whenever we lived in that trash field, I was only 5 years old whenever I had to witness how poverty took my little brother away from me. But I'm not here to share a sad story. I'm not here so that you have sadness of me. I just want you to understand where it is that I come from. Why it is now that whenever I'm in schools and I meet doctors and nurses, why it is that I'm inspired, because poverty took my brother away. I'll give up everything I ever gained in this world to be able to have my brother with me, but I can't. I find hope in education. My brother passed away due to an asthma attack whenever we were in the trash field. Education is power. Education can give you a perspective to see the problems in our communities and to be able to bring solutions to them. So I honor you for having hope in education. I applaud you for having hope in this process. As I think about my journey, I was 7, 8 years old. Whenever at a very young age, I started cleaning windshields. I started shining shoes in plazas. I started selling newspapers in light intersections, selling candies in stadiums, because my mother taught me that there was integrity in work. My mother taught me that antes de comer, uno tenía que trabajar. But when you live under those absolute levels of poverty, it's very difficult. I remember being 7, 8, 9, 10 years old, going to work in the morning, going to school in the afternoon, because the education system in these nations is very broken. So it's very, very difficult to be able to have hope, to be able to have this concept that me and you are talking about. You see, this might be your story. You might recall or remember some of these experiences that I'm talking about. And if it's not your story, it might be the story of your parents. I know our stories are not that far away, but what I do know is that there is power in education, that there is a transformational generation of power in our communities. And higher education provides us a platform to be able to bring hope and solutions to our community. I remember whenever I was 11 years old, there was a hurricane by the name of Hurricane Mitch. It was a Category 5 hurricane. In the country, it was devastated. It caused extreme destruction. And because of the hurricane, a lot of people had to migrate, and they started getting together in caravans and groups of people, and they started going to different places. And among those people that migrated was my mother. I remember being 11 years old. Imagine being 11 years old. Imagine being 11. And all of a sudden, you no longer have your little brother because of poverty. Your father is not in the house because of dysfunctional family that lost him in drugs and alcohol. You live in a trash field. And now at the age of 11 years old, there's a hurricane that destroys the trash field, and you have to escape. And all of a sudden, at the age of 11, I had to experience how my mother and my little sister had to migrate to the United States. Not even for the concept of a better life, but for the concept of a life itself. And my mother had to sacrifice the concept of unity for the concept of life. And she migrated to the United States, maybe the same way that your parents did, to give you an opportunity to their dreams, to give you an opportunity to succeed. And seeing my mother migrating to the United States, I stayed behind in Honduras for almost 2 years. And these 2 years were very difficult for me, very challenging, because my mother wasn't home, because my dad wasn't home. And all of a sudden, I started living in the streets and started sleeping in parks and started sleeping in stadiums and started sleeping in buses. You see, I'm only 33 years old, but in my body, I already have 14 surgeries, including an entire knee reconstruction and 8 screws on my right knee, the one that keeps my knee together. Education is powerful. Education is healing. Education allows you an opportunity to process your experiences. Change and positive change for our community. Education is power. Education will change the trajectory of your life. I remember simply playing soccer after 2 years of living in Honduras, and there was a drive-by shooting. But I was used to drive-by shootings. I experienced them in schools. I experienced them in hospitals. I experienced them in the markets. I was used to, because San Pedro Sula has been deemed recently as the most dangerous city in the world outside of war zone. So whenever you live on these rampant levels of violence, it's very common for you to experience these types of drive-by shootings. So I remember being 13 years old playing soccer, and there was a drive-by shooting. And at the age of 13 years old, I had to experience how both of my arms have been impacted by bullets. I'm 13. But I'm not here to share a sad story. I'm here to tell you how education gives me hope, because whenever I meet people who want to become great police officers to be able to protect their community, that gives me hope. Whenever I meet somebody who wants to go into the armed forces to be able to bring safety to our nation, that gives me hope, because I understand the lack thereof. Education is powerful. Education gives us an opportunity to be able to process the world differently. So I respect you and I applaud you. And more than anything, I honor you on this Hispanic Heritage Month. Because education is not only a simple individual sense of achievement. It's about our communities. It's about our families. And most importantly, it's about creating a generational impact. I remember whenever I was 13 and my mom heard about the shooting, and I migrated to the United States as an unaccompanied minor. As a kid who rode in La Bestia, as a kid who walked in the middle of the desert and the mountains, I understand that journey. A journey of hope. A journey of hell filled with aspirations. Maybe a journey that your own parents made so that you can have an opportunity to be in a great school like UTD. sacrifices our parents have made are incredible. But imagine the sacrifices that you will never find out because they're too painful for your parents to describe, like their journey to the United States. Education gives you an opportunity to bring pride to those same sacrifices. After 45 days of migrating to the United States, I made it to the Mexican border. And I was detained by an immigration officer, and I was taken to a detention center where I lived for about 2 years under heavy psychological trauma, under fear of being deported back to Honduras. But due to fear of persecution in my own nation, I was allowed to stay in the United States and be reunified with my mother back in year 2000. And I remember whenever we got into a Greyhound bus and we started driving to Houston, Texas, imagine that kid that comes from a trash field from Honduras and all of a sudden arrives to Houston, Texas at 2 a.m. And I remember like I got there and there was this big towers and these bridges and all over the place. And I remember being inside this Greyhound bus. And whenever I saw those towers, I'm not going to lie to you, I got so excited of seeing Houston that I thought Godzilla was going to come out of one of those towers. I thought I was going to get out of the bus and I was going to talk to Mickey Mouse or Minnie Mouse or Popeye because I was in the United States. I couldn't believe it. It was such an incredible shock. And all of a sudden, my life started in the United States as an undocumented immigrant, as a dreamer, as an English language learner. So believe me that to be able to go through an associate's, a bachelor's, a master's, and a PhD, it has not been easy at all. But I think that what it does shows is that it creates a mirror for our community. Not for you to see me, but for you to see yourself, for you to see the reflection of what it can be possible through a strong desire of succeed. And then I made it to the United States, and really quickly, my mother enrolled me in a school. We were in the United States on a Monday, and on a Tuesday, my mother had already enrolled me in school. And I remember showing up to an American school and seeing the locker rooms and seeing like the people in the soccer fields and seeing a system that actually works, seeing teachers who cared about you. And all of a sudden, I fell in love with education. So that's why I want you to understand why it is I'm so passionate about education, because of where I come from, because of my roots. Because education has changed my life. It didn't just provide me a different opportunity to be professional, to be somebody that can make a difference in our community. It changed my life. It gave me a different point of view in this world. Education is power. Education is generational power. I remember being enrolled in the 7th grade and I met teachers. I met Mrs. Wright, my ESL teacher, who told me that my past did not define my future. And meeting mentors, meeting systems of support, meeting advisors, meeting counselors, meeting educators who told me that they were there for me, relying on the systems of support, created a foundation for me to stand on and to be able to believe in my dreams. And it was that systemic support that allowed me opportunities. I graduated from high school and became the first one in my family to ever graduate high school. But my sister was watching my footsteps, so I knew that I had to keep on going. And as an undocumented student, I would grab my lawnmower and my weed eater and my blower, and in the back of my truck, I would drive to a community college. And before my classes, I would go mow lawns. I would go to class. After class, I would go mow lawns. Why? Because I had a desire to be in school. I worked in flea markets and in constructions and in restaurants. Why? Porque mi mamá taught me that work is powerful, but there is integrity in work. So I was not afraid of working. But then my mother told me to work with my brains and not simply with my hands. My mother told me that I had an opportunity to work in an office the same way that she cleaned an office. And now my life has changed. My life's changed. I graduated from high school, went to a community college, and I graduated with an associate's degree, but I couldn't work. So what did I do? I met people who advised me and guided me, and I transferred to Texas A&M University, where as a dreamer, my bachelor's degree, I received over $100,000 in scholarships. Because whenever there is a desire, there is an infinity amount of ways to be able to make it happen. Como mi mamá dice, el que tiene frío, con cualquier sábana se arropa. So whenever you want to be able to keep on going, you will find a way. So that's why I congratulate you, because you embarked in a journey that you had no idea how it would be. And by being enrolled at UTD, that tells me so much about you. It tells me so much about your future. It tells me so much about your strength and your aspirations. So congratulations. Today is a celebration of our community. It's a celebration of our heritage. And what a beautiful, beautiful thing for us to celebrate than to celebrate you. To celebrate you. To celebrate your sacrifices. To celebrate your community. To celebrate your family. Because at the end of the day, the hero and the shero in this story, it's you. You are the one who gets to rewrite our story. Education is just that pen to be able to allow you to rewrite it. I graduated from Texas A&M with a bachelor's degree, and I couldn't teach because I was undocumented. So what did I do? I stayed in school and I pursued a master's in English as a second language. I graduated with my master's, and I couldn't teach because back then we didn't have deferred action. Being a dreamer back then wasn't as popular or as mainstream as it has become now. So what did I do? I stayed faithful to this concept of higher education, and my worst nightmare became my greatest blessing. And this limitation of not being able to work gave me an opportunity to enroll in a PhD program in urban education at Texas A&M University. And last year I finished the PhD. And I have dedicated 13 years and a half of my life into this system of higher education. But whenever I think about the impact that higher education has created in me, but whenever I think about this concept of generational power, higher education has not only impacted my life, higher education has not only created an impact to be able to give me hope, but it has created a generational impact. Today is not just about me. Today is about my family. It's about the fact that I'm no longer alone. It's about the fact that that same kid that grew up in a trash field, that same kid that grew up among poverty and destruction, now gives an opportunity to his daughter. Because today I'm a father. Today I'm a father. Say hi. Hi, baby. Today I'm a father. And higher education has allowed me an opportunity to give her a different life. This is real. The probabilities of you being on the other side of the screen today are very minimal. This moment was meant to happen. I just want you to see the impact that a higher education will be able to provide to you, because one day, many of you would also have a family. Many of you will have a daughter or a son, or many of you will adopt. And whenever you're there, know that higher education will provide opportunities that otherwise not present. So keep on going, keep on believing, because this is not only about ourselves. Say hi. See, she's just turned 1. How old are you, baby? 1? 1. She's just turned 1. Bravo. Say bye-bye. Bye-bye. Bye-bye, baby. You see, the power of higher education is truly generational. It will provide you an opportunity to bless your family, to be able to provide for your families that are maybe back in your native country. It will give you an opportunity to be able to evolve, to be able to think about the future from a different perspective. A higher education will provide you a platform to make an impact, to keep on going, to keep on believing that there is an opportunity for change. Our families and our parents have sacrificed too much for us to stop at a bachelor's degree. My challenge to you today, my encouragement to you today is this: pursue a postgraduate degree. Do not stop at the bachelor's degree. You see, my greatest lesson that I can give to you is my greatest blessing. And the greatest blessing that I have had is that I did not stop. Many people will share experiences with you and tell you, get some work experience first and then go to school. And listen from wisdom. But what I can share with you is that if you are able to pursue a postgraduate degree right after your bachelor's, your possibilities and your experience exponentially will grow throughout time. Don't stop at the bachelor's level. Think about a master's. Think about a PhD. Think about an MBA. Think about medical school. You are the future attorney. I might be talking to the next president or the next presidenta de todo un país. Education will give you that opportunity to make it a reality. You see, to me, To me, higher education is just a platform to be able to honor my parents. It's leña to the fire. It's fuel to keep on going. To understand that when you can no more, that once you're down, that once it's no longer possible, remember this one thing. Remember this one thing. Stay real. When you can't keep on going no more, when it's challenging, when it's difficult, whenever the imposter syndrome comes in and says you don't belong, whenever you are at a professional job and you're probably making $50,000, $60,000 and you feel guilty because your family is still struggling with groceries at home, whenever you are in an environment that is so professional and you're like, oh my God, this is incredible, but yeah, you feel ashamed because you've never been there and you might not even know how to work with a fork. Whenever you are in those environments, know that when you walk in there, you walk in with our communities. Know that when you go in there and every single achievement that you keep going through this life, you represent our community. So thank you. Thank you for honoring our communities. Thank you for putting hope in our communities by pursuing education. Thank you for honoring your families. Thank you for bringing honor to our community. It is because of you that our story gets to be rewritten. It is because of you that our community is proud. It is because of you. It is because of you that I can find hope for my daughter, that I can think of a better future, because I know that you are the representation of our community. And I know that you will do a great job leading our future problems, our future solutions. I am nothing but humble and grateful for this beautiful opportunity to, through my story, share how education has changed my life. But if there is one thing that I can leave behind, is this: stay real. Stay real. And this is what I mean by whenever I say stay real. Be responsible, but not just any type of responsible. What I mean is take individual responsibilities. Do not have a victim mentality. Have a triumph mentality, a victorious mentality, to understand that your past does not define your future. Create independent responsibility within yourself to be able to rewrite your future. Stay real. Create high expectations of yourself. Make sure that whenever if the standard has been set like this, if the expectations have been to this level, bring up those expectations higher. Make sure that it is possible, that this is not just about you going to college, that this is about el elotero, la tortillera, your mom, your dad, your cousins, your sisters, because education is to be a domino effect that impacts our community. Education is a movement. Education is an opportunity for us to be able to bring hope, change, transformation, but most importantly, a generational impact. Whenever you can, keep on going, bring up your standards higher, bring up your expectations higher, stay real. As you keep on going through this journey, I'm about to give you the cherry on top. For me, in this concept of staying real, responsibility and expectations. But whenever somebody tells me, Jose Luis, how did you make it? How did you get there? This is the cherry on top for me. Real accountability. Make sure that you have systems in place for mentorship, for guidance, to take care of your mental health, to make sure that you take care of your health, to make sure that you take care of your future, that you are planning. Create systems of mentorship, people who you trust, people who you care about. This is not an individual journey. This is not a lone ranger. There is not an individual hero in this story. You got to where you're at because of the sacrifices of your parents. Maybe they were not able to be at every single one of your parent meetings, but I bet you that you had books, that you had food, that you had a roof at your table, and those sacrifices are the reason why you're able to be in college today, to this day. So make sure that as you keep on going, you realize that you're not alone, que estás acompañado, que estás acompañada, that there are institutional figures, there are people who are powerful, philanthropists, corporations, people of wealth who are going to be able to help you in this journey. You are not alone. Create systems of accountability. Surround yourself with people who are smarter than you to be able to empower you and guide you and save many years of life. And I conclude with this: real and leadership. Do not just be a follower. You see, oftentimes the society has created us to be great employees. to be able to go and be able to be the greatest person to or boss that we possibly can. But do not just think about being a follower. Think about intentional leadership. Think about when is it that you're going to be able to take your family out of poverty. Think about how long is it going to be able for you to create wealth. Think about pursuing a postgraduate degree. Think about intentional leadership. Build a business. Figure out a way how to create wealth so that your family can truly experience the generation of power of higher education. Thank you. Thank you, UTD. Thank you, Comet. Thank you, Dallas. Thank you so much, North Texas, for giving me an opportunity to be able to share my passion, to be able to share my roots, but most importantly, to share the generation of power of higher education. Because this is not my story. This is the story of our communities who, through education, have found hope to change our communities, hope to bring positivity, and hope to celebrate Hispanic Heritage Month from a perspective of not celebrities, but from a celebrity that is within us, from the celebrity of our parents, from the superstars of their sacrifices. Porque nosotros, juntos, somos más fuerte. Together we're stronger. Thank you so much, UTD. I look forward to now engaging into a conversation, into answering some of your questions, because we're live. We're live. And this is a beautiful opportunity for me to be able to share my heart. So thank you so much, UTD Dallas. Thank you so much, Multicultural Center, for giving me an opportunity to be able to express how higher education has changed my life, and to encourage you to also pursue postgraduate degrees, to also experience an exponential and generational power, the power of higher education. So thank you so much. Now we can go into Q&A.
Absolutely amazing. That was awesome. That was awesome. That made my day. I feel I want to get out there and I want to change the world. I want to get out.
I completely agree. I've been really unmotivated this semester, but now I totally feel like I can conquer this semester, although it's been the most challenging one yet. But thanks to Dr. Zelaya, I feel very powerful now, especially with the knowledge I've been acquiring. I think that's really powerful, that education is power. I'm going to start using that with other people as well. Now, to our audience, please feel free to write any questions you have in the chat for Dr. Zelaya, and we'll be putting them on the screen to read. But in the meantime, I actually do have a question for you. And my question is, what advice do you have for students to accept a new path that may be formed for them, different than their original plan, maybe? Because I think we get stuck on a one-way track, and that's definitely not always the case in life. So,
yeah, that's awesome. So thank you, Gigi. I think that's very important, because there are many of us who either are going through it or have gone through changing minds, right? So whether it's changing majors or changing careers or changing cities, or having to maybe take that job that is just so out of the blue. So I think it's be adaptable, be ready for adaptability, to be able to make sure that whenever you are going to be in a professional environment, especially for students like us who are first generation students and don't know the rules of the game, right? Like, we're trying to play the game, but we don't know the rules of the game. So oftentimes it becomes very difficult to know how to properly play the game if you don't know the rules. So as you're entering higher education, as you're entering places of professionalism, think about those being as a game, and those games have rules. So understanding those rules before you're trying to navigate them, right? So if you are thinking about whether it's an interviewing, how to have a professional interview, before you figure it out that you made a whole bunch of mistakes during the interview, prepping up for that proper interview is going to be key. But that's in concept adapts to everything. For me, I'm only 33 years old, and I have to navigate a PhD as a dreamer who I don't even know if my DACA is going to be renewed next year. So I have to, in my head, navigate so many systems without knowing what the future holds. So there is this sense of uncertainty. So know that those things will happen. Just try to prepare yourself as much as possible to understand how the game is played before you actually play it.
Thank you. That's really useful, and I'm glad you brought up interviewing because that it is my internship season and it's time for interviews, and I've been pretty nervous about it. So I'm going to be taking your advice on this one.
Yeah.
Evan, do you have a question, maybe?
I do have a question. I do. With the majority of the semester and for the foreseeable future following semesters being online, something I've noticed is burnout happening in many students, a loss of interest in pursuing higher grades and extracurricular. Are there any ways to deterring or blocking this burnout from happening to students? Because I felt it personally from the last 2 weeks, an absolute burnout of wanting to pursue another few semesters of college to go to a bachelor's, as this pandemic has taken a toll on my mental health.
I mean, Evan, that's serious. I mean, I think that the representation of what you're saying, all of us have gone through it. I mean, going from like, for example, like in the month of March, I was supposed to travel the nation, and I was supposed to go from school to school to school. And I was like, oh my God, I made it as a professional, as a speaker. Like, yeah, like I can be in my community. And all of a sudden, every single one of my events kept getting canceled. And then I came home and I was like, oh my God, like what happened? Right. So I think that what you're talking about that you experience as a student, many of us also experience it in different other methods. I experienced professionally, right? Like where it was like everything failed. And I was like, oh my God, like how do I succeed? How do I keep on going? But I think that it's understanding. I think that this is what's key. It's understanding that this virtual world has been here before it hit us, right? Like it's not like oh my, like it's just that some of us were forced into it. So I think that what it does, it gives us an entire new set of skills, set of tools to keep on succeeding. Because generations that were before us, that were in college, maybe they dealt with it, but they just probably had to rely on online classes. They didn't have to go as in depth with the virtual world as we are. So I think that the skills that we have been able to learn in these past few months, years from now, are going to be very helpful, especially for corporations or for businesses who are going to be utilizing some of these virtual tools or these virtual capacities. So people like you who had to be forced into it are now going to have a different mentality about than maybe somebody who in the future has not gone through this process. So I think that it's always important to understand that a negative times a negative equals a positive, to find the positivity in this negativity going on throughout the pandemic. But I think that that's going to be key to think about, okay, it was challenging, it was difficult. Let's dissect the skills that I learned and let's apply those whenever it is that we go back to a sense of normalcy. Because I think that we're finally going through the other side of the curve. So I think that utilizing the skills that we learned throughout this pandemic are going to be very helpful for those who utilize them.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. And I think we have another question up on the screen. Was it easy for you to transition the way you thought about work? So working with your hands to working with your head seems as though it requires a lot of discipline. How were you able to discipline yourself during your undergraduate years?
Beautiful. I go back to the cherry on top, that letter A in the concept of real, accountability. I had mentors. Like you see me, but what you don't see is my financial aid mentor. What you don't see is my community advocacy mentor. What you don't see is my spiritual mentor. What you don't see is my family mentor. So upon with me are these giants who have guided me. So I think that as I transition into the concept of working with mowing lawns or painting or bringing down sheetrock to the concept of research and writing, academic writing and technical writing, and understanding how to process a theoretical framework, I think that it was challenging because whenever I went from a bachelor's to a master, the academic level of writing had to change dramatically. And I didn't know how to do that. That's why I keep going back to the same point, the cherry on top, that A, accountability, systems of support. So having great mentors in my life. But now I don't mean just a mentor that you just call a mentor and you go and talk. I'm talking about mentors that I have built 10, 12, 13 years of relationship, and people who care about me, people who are not just there to share knowledge, but people who are there to share knowledge so that I can change my life. And I think that that's key. That was very key for me to be able to transition, because believe me, if you were to just see this, you wouldn't see this. You would see an entire different mess that has been going on in my head for me to be able to be where I'm at. But who you would also see is that you would see Nick Kilmer in my head, who was the financial aid director of Texas A&M. If you were to see my brain, you would see Mr. Watson, who was my recruiter that introduced me to Texas A&M. You will see Dr. Martinez, who was the one that mentored me to be able to understand how to become a student leader. So as you enter my brain, there's a whole bunch of voices in here, because remember, there's also the imposter in here. So I need to bring a whole bunch of other voices in here to make sure that I can keep on going. And I think that that's what did it. Having people in my life that kept reaffirming and validating that I was good enough to make it, even though in the moment I didn't have the skills to succeed or to be able to achieve the expectations that academia had for me.
Yes, absolutely. That's amazing. I completely agree that without support, it would be almost impossible to get through undergraduate. We actually have another question on the screen. What is your biggest advice to graduating seniors, especially in regards to finding a job during the pandemic?
Do a master's. My advice, look, I'm gonna let somebody else give you the job interview, the public speaking, the shaking the hands advice. What I'm gonna tell you is stay in school, do a master's. That's what I'm gonna tell you. I'm gonna say why? Because if there is ever a time when you know how to live broke, it's right after your bachelor's. You know how to be a minimalist. You know, like you're after your bachelor's, you're most likely to still be okay with the roommate. But if you go to work, if you learn this independency and you start liking the concept of living alone, then the budget increases. So coming back to school tends to be more difficult, especially if you have a family or if you have a full-time job. So my honest advice would be pursue a master's, pursue law school, pursue medical school, try to fit. And now, what about the ones that are going to go to work? I don't want to leave you off. So as you are working, you can also maybe enter and do one class. Maybe it won't take you 2 years to do the master's. It'll probably take you to do 4, but do a master's, do postgraduate school. It's nearly impossible for me to be able to explain why. It's just changed my life. So if I was a rapper and I knew how to rap and I could do this and that, I would be telling you, look, this is how you do it. Right? If I wrote a book and I became a millionaire and I would tell you like, look, this is how I did it. But what is doing it for me is the fact that I finished a PhD. Because I have been saying what I've been saying as an activist. I have been saying what I've been saying as a human forever. But the fact that I finished the PhD gives me a different accent. And people listen differently. So when you have postgraduate degrees, not only your income increases, the network increases, but also opportunities increase. And I think that without the postgraduate degree, it's very, very challenging to be able to experience that generational transformational challenge that I'm talking about, because I've done the numbers and I've seen the numbers and the differences. So my advice honestly would be keep going. Don't stop.
Thank you. Yeah, I've been trying to figure out if I want to pursue a master's too. And so far it's looking like I want to. So I think that advice is really going to motivate me to look into that further.
That's what's up.
Yes. I think I might want to pursue my master's. I'm getting it first before my brother, my younger brother. He wants to get it first. He wants to get it first, but I'm going to get it first. I'm sorry, brother. I'm sorry. It's a race. It's a race now. It is.
Yeah. That's beautiful. That's beautiful. We're changing the culture. That's beautiful.
And we have one last question. This one's from the Multicultural Center. What is your advice? What advice do you have regarding balancing mental health with education and classes?
Yeah, this is beautiful. And it's beautiful because this is what I go through on a daily basis, right? Think about it like this, and I'm going to give you from my personal perspective. I'm only 33 years old. I am managing a business. I have a daughter. I have a family. In the business, there are people that I'm responsible for. I am in communities. I'm working with different school districts. So there's a lot that happens every single day in my life that is unexpected. Very similar to this concept of the virtual world. So what advice do I have for us to take care of our mental health? I'm going to be straight up honest, okay? I'm going to be straight up honest, and let's take it to the basics. 3 things. Number 1, drink water. Drink water. When you drink water, more oxygen gets into your brain and you're able to breathe easier. You're able to function easier, so that whenever you are studying, just the fact that you drink water would allow you to feel a little bit more calm. Drink water. Get up, drink a glass of water. One of the things that I actually started doing while my weight loss process is that I would drink a gallon of water every single day. And I started doing that. I was doing that. Now it's gone. It's right. There's ups and downs. But I think that having that understanding that the basic things are the ones that will give you the maximized result. Drink water. Make sure that as you're sleeping, and this is one of the areas that I don't do as best as possible, but I know it works, is to make sure to be able to have at least 5 to 6 hours of sleep. Lately, one of the things that I have been doing is listening to my body a little more. Because before, if it was 4:30 in the morning, it didn't matter if I was tired or not tired. I would go to the gym, I would rush, I would put my body through so much. And little by little, I started to learn how to listen to my body. So if I don't feel like working out, I'm gonna rest. Listen to your body. Like, learn to listen to your body. And then the third thing that I would tell you is to be able to make sure that you have a plan. To be able to make sure that you actually write these things down, because the probabilities increase whenever you have an objective written down. So if you literally say, I am going to drink water at 8 in the morning, I am going to drink water at 12, what would that create is that it will create a certain level of routine where things can just become organic. So those would be my main 3 advices. The first 2 advices, water and sleep, and then 2, to actually write them down. So what time would you go to sleep? What time would you wake up? Because that would allow you to plan and be more strategic. And then those 2 things in return, if you're rested and you're drinking water, it can help you take care a little bit more of your mental health. So there is no big equation that runs logarithm and statistics and analysis to be able to get your mental health into the right place. It's just honestly knowing how to take care of yourself through the basic stuffs: water, sleep, nutrition, food, fitness. So those are the things that I think are very important, the basic.
Thank you. I think that's very true. Taking care of your physical health helps, like, taking care of your mental health as well sometimes. And I do think we have another question by Mariana Lucio. She says, usually we get told by people to pursue our passion when speaking of higher education. But lately I've been feeling that does not apply to some Hispanics. My mother did not want me to become a teacher simply because the pay is too low to get us out of poverty. What is your advice for people in this situation?
Yeah, well, let's do the numbers. And then we can do the numbers right now. How much does somebody make without graduating from college? Okay, let's go with minimum wage. I think that somebody who graduates without a degree on average will probably make about between $18,000 to $22,000 on average without a job. Someone with a degree, with a bachelor's degree, even if it's education, and I agree, I didn't go into education because of the money. It's an opportunity to be able to empower others. So I understand what you're saying when you're like, okay, I want to be a teacher, I want to empower people, but it doesn't pay. That's what I'm saying. Do a master's. That's what I'm saying. Keep on going, because payment increases. So I think that as we are thinking about as we are thinking about how to move forward with their education, it's very important to plan. It's very important to be aware that not everything is going to go as planned, that not everything would be perfect. So plan A, plan B, plan C is very, very, very key. So just always make sure that you're doing those basic things to set yourself up for the future. But it won't be easy. It will not be an easy journey, but plan. And whenever you're thinking about going into education, whenever you're thinking about going into a job that would pay you $70,000, $80,000, but you are going to hate your job, Find another job that will pay you the same, that you're going to love. And that's why I keep talking about this concept of building your own business, of doing an MBA, of doing a master's, because then whenever you're thinking about salary and you do the numbers, you will come to find out that someone who just graduates from high school, someone who graduates with an associate, someone who graduates with a bachelor's, and you start comparing income, you will come to see that you can be in the field of education and make a very well-off salary so that you can take care of your families. But you're right, with just a bachelor's degree, it would be very, very difficult. But you are way better off than not getting it. So make sure that you set yourself up, know your numbers, do the math, figure it out how much it is that you're going to pay. But I think that for you as an educator, I think you're going into this to change lives. I think you're going into this to be able to empower our community. So thank you. Thank you for thinking of education, because it was someone like you who put the salary on the side and said, I want to change lives, who changed my life. So thank you for thinking of education.
Thank you, Dr. Zelaya. I think we have one more question, if that's okay with you.
Of course.
This one says, you're really persuading me to get a master's, but I feel as though I'm not a good candidate. What advice would you give to someone who is struggling to maintain student life with their home life?
So you don't think you are a great candidate. This is great. Because if you do not think you're a great candidate, you're not a great candidate. Plain and simple. And I really mean this. I think that this is an issue that I also experienced with myself in the very beginning. Whenever I would share my story, I would talk about my story from a deficit model. And I think that we've been taught to do that. I think that we've been told that our parents don't care about our education because they don't go to their meetings. We've been taught that our parents don't care about our education because they don't go to the schools because they don't speak the language. We've been taught that our parents don't care about our schools because they don't go to our conferences or they don't go to our colleges. That's what we've been told. We've been told this. But we also been told this, and I think that y'all talked about this earlier, this concept of colonization is not in the past, it's still in the air, and it's still within our own brains. We need to free ourselves from this concept of deficit model and believe that we are not a sleepy giant, that we are strong, that we are David, that we can keep on going, that we can pursue, that if we don't know a way, we will grab a shovel and we will make a way. You see, for me, I did my master's and I couldn't work. So what did I do? I crocheted my way to college. I made beanies, I made headbands, scarves. Why? Because the sacrifices that my mom made were way stronger than the ones that I was making for an education. So stay focused. Know that at the end of this journey, life will change and it will create a generational impact. So do not believe that you are not a great candidate. Believe that you are a great candidate, and then figure it out how to frame that. Figure out what the institution wants in that application. Find mentors that will grab your essay that is not good enough and that will make it great. So make sure that you surround yourself with people, because we talk about this concept of the imposter syndrome. But sometimes we come from a deficit model, and the deficit model is believing that we're not good enough. We are good enough. We are strong enough because we represent the sacrifices of our families, because we represent the sacrifices of our parents, and that should be a reason why you should do a master's. That should be the reason why you finish a PhD, Madam Doctor. So I think it's important for us to be able to understand that we don't just represent ourselves, but we represent the sacrifices, the hopes, and the aspirations of our entire community. And that is good enough.
Thank you. Yeah, I think that's really good advice. You first got to believe in yourself, and then others will start believing in you as well.
Yes. Dr. Zelaya, thank you so much for your time and sharing with our audience that amazing speech. Thank you so much. We greatly appreciate it.
No, gracias a ustedes. Gracias a ustedes. Thank you, UTD. Thank you, Multicultural Center. Thank you, Gigi. Thank you, Evan. Thank you to everybody who joined us today. To me, it's a beautiful honor. Let's stay connected. I'm on LinkedIn. I'm on social media as Dr. Zelaya Speaks. On LinkedIn, I'm as Jose Luis Zelaya. There's also a website, drzelaya.com, and I'm here to serve. I look forward to staying connected and more than ever paying it forward the same way that it was paid, the same way that it was created towards me.
Thank you. Have an amazing day.
Gracias. Adios.
Adios.
Happy Hispanic Heritage Month.
Happy HHM. Okay, before we go, I want to shout out the awesome planning committee who assisted me starting in July to put together a month of educational, informative, and some really fun programs for HHM. So I'm going to start listing them off. First, we have Association of Latin American Students, the Association of Latino Professionals for America, JOLT, Lambda Theta Phi Fraternity Incorporated, the Latino Faculty Staff Association, the Latinx Student Success Network, League of United Latin American Citizens, Minority Association of Pre-Medical Students, Omega Delta Phi Fraternity Incorporated, Sigma Lambda Alpha Sorority Incorporated, Sigma Lambda Gamma Sorority Incorporated, and the Society of Hispanic Professional Engineers. Thank you all so much. We have come to the end of our program, but before we go, we have a survey we'd like you to take and give us your feedback on what you thought of our program. I believe there's a link in the chat, and there will also be a QR code coming up on the screen in a minute. And be sure to remain on the lookout for our upcoming programs in the MC. Thursday, October 29th at 6 p.m. is our Dia de los Muertos celebration, and November 5th is our Multiracial in America workshop. Check out this video we have for y'all. Well, there you have it. Evan, I think we did a job well done this afternoon.
Gigi, it has been a pleasure to work beside you as your co-host, and I think I have thoroughly enjoyed this Hispanic Heritage celebration. Thank you, and thank you all for coming. We hope you have a great day and a safe weekend. Take care.
Bye.